Hello and welcome to Willow Cove Crafts knitting and sewing channel. Hello and welcome to Willow Cove Crafts, my channel here on YouTube where I talk about knitting and sewing and all of my other crafty endeavors. My name is Emily and thank you so much for tuning in today. It's been a little while since I've recorded a video, maybe about 5 weeks, I want to say. I took a little bit of time to really ponder what I wanted to do with this channel and how I wanted to move it forward. And I've kind of settled on this idea of maybe going back to weekly videos. I did that for a little bit, maybe a year and a half ago, I want to say. I experimented with doing weekly videos. I kind of stopped doing that. Well, I had surgery and that, kind of put a stop to things. But I really hesitated to do that at the time because I feel like I don't knit very fast. I am, in my opinion, a very average knitter in terms of productivity. I knit a lot. I don't have, children. I think that's the big thing. I do get to spend my free time however I want, and I do spend a lot of time knitting, but I am a very slow knitter, and for that reason, I don't feel like I produce a ton. I've talked about this before, but some of my favorite YouTubers, knitting YouTubers, just seem to crank out a new sweater every week, every other week, and it's amazing and I'm so happy for them, but that is just not a pace that I can keep up with. And so for that reason, I always kind of thought, I probably shouldn't do a weekly video. I don't have much to say on a week-to-week basis. But then I was thinking about it, and knitting is slow and making is slow, and that's really why we love it. It's why I love it, and I love seeing the process, and I love seeing people's projects pretty much at every step of the way. And even if I'm working on the same things week to week to week, I just think it would be fun to really dive into the nitty gritty details of a project, and also do maybe a little bit more vlog style content to go along with it. You'll notice that a bit today, hopefully. And just really romanticizing the art of knitting and sewing. I am mostly a monogamous maker at this point in time. So I am hopeful that within the span of a week, I can get pretty good progress done on a single project. But yeah, I just really want to lean into the slowness and just capture all of these little moments that come along with making a project. So I'm kind of rebranding my videos and calling them Diaries, because that's what this is. It's just me documenting my process. And I hope you enjoy it. So more frequent videos. I think they'll be a lot shorter, but yeah, I just think this will be a fun experiment to try for a little bit. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you like it. This was a really big week for me knitting wise, because if you've been watching for a while, you will know that I have been working on the same sweater for about 4 months. I've had a really busy few months, so I haven't been knitting as much as I maybe normally would. But then on top of that, this sweater was also really a labor of love. It was a very long-term project, but I finished it this week. I'm not gonna put it on for you quite yet because it still needs to be blocked, but I have finished my Stria cardigan. I'm so happy. So yes, this is the Stria cardigan. It is a pattern by Andrea Mowry. And the reason it takes so long is that it is a fingering weight, half fisherman's rib sweater. And if you've never knit fisherman's rib or half fisherman's rib, let me tell you, it is a slow going stitch. Just to give you an idea, each of these purple stripes here is 12 rows. And then each of the contrast stripes is 2 rows. Excuse me. Each of the purple is 10 rows, and then the contrast is 2 rows for a total of 12 rows. As you can see, that is not a lot of surface area for 12 rows of knitting. So fingering weight, it's knit on size 2 needles, and every other row is a knit purl row, so you're switching back and forth, and as we all know, that's can be a bit more slow going than just plain stockinette. There's a lot of ends to weave in. Each of these stripes has 2 ends that needs to be woven in on the body and then again on each sleeve. And yeah, it took a while to finish. Cast on with caution if you're interested in making this sweater, but I'm so happy it's done. I cannot wait to block it and see how it relaxes. It is a little stiff at the moment, but I do think it will relax a little bit with blocking. And then I also need to put buttons on it because it does have buttonholes somewhere around here. But yeah, as you can see, it's like pretty stiff over here. That'll lay a little bit flatter with blocking, but I will be sure to film that and share that with you next week and maybe do a little try on. The yarn I use for this is the yarn that is called for in the pattern. It is Ampersand fibers in their Caslon fingering base. And let me see if I can remember the colors. So my main color is this like purpley, gray, brown color. That is Pompadour 02. And then my contrast colors, the reddish orange is Vermilion 02. The blue is Azurite 01. Excuse me. My yellow was Ochre 02, I want to say. And then the cream is Oat 01. And yes, I'm trying to think what else I want to say about this. I'm really, really happy to have it off the needles. I will say that. I guess another thing I did, this is a little deviation from the pattern. So Andrea Mowry called for a tubular bind off in the pattern. I have never done like a proper tubular bind off, I don't think. I tend to always do the Italian sewn bind off because from what I can tell, it looks very similar and it is probably quicker, I would imagine. But here's one of my sleeves, that like very crisp bind off where it just kind of rolls over the edge. I think it looks really nice. But yeah, slight deviation from the pattern, but if a tubular bind off intimidates you or you just like can't be bothered with it, I would maybe look into the Italian sewn bind off. It's also takes a little bit of time, but I am like really sold on it. I think it looks so much nicer than pretty much any other bind off. And yes, I would rather take the time to do a really nice bind off, especially when I've spent so long on a project. I want it to look as perfect as possible. So yes, maybe give that bind off a try if you are interested. But it's finally finished. All right. Since I finished my Stria, it was time to pick up a new project. And I was thinking for a couple weeks about what I wanted to work on next. And the Stria took so long that I really wanted something that was going to be a quick win. I do knit mostly sweaters, which are inherently longer term projects, but some do knit up quicker than others. And so for me, a quick win sweater was something that was worsted or thicker and plain stockinette. So I went and looked I have a spreadsheet that has my whole stash listed out and kind of categorized into what I plan to make with each of the yarns. So I went and looked. I have a tab for plain sweaters, and I went and looked at all the ones that were worsted or above, and I settled on the Lakes Pullover, which is a pattern by Ozetta. It is pretty much a plain stockinette sweater with a saddle shoulder detail. So there's this like kind of line of, it's like a drop saddle shoulder. I hope people know what that is. But anyways, here's my progress so far. I cast it on this week and got started on it. It really looks like nothing. it keeps curling up on itself. But again, this is like 3 days worth of work, and I was like working most of that time and doing other things. So this already is feeling much, much quicker than the Stria. But as you can kind of see, you start by knitting these rectangles. So we've got a rectangle here and a rectangle here, and then you pick up stitches along the edges and a little bit in the middle, and then this is actually going to be the shoulder. So right now I'm working on the back, and then I'll do the same. I'll pick up stitches here and along the front and knit the front. And then you'll have, I always call it like a toilet seat sweater, because whenever you knit a top-down drop shoulder, you end up with just a big piece of fabric with a hole in the middle, which is the neck, and I think it looks like a toilet seat. But anyways, once you get to toilet seat stage, you then, join in the round and pick up under the underarm and knit down. So just a little insight into how my brain works. But yes, it's been so fun so far, just really relaxing. The yarn I am using is Brooklyn Tweed Shelter in the cast iron colorway. This is Brooklyn Tweed's worsted base. It's a 100% wool, and it's the black. I really like this yarn though, because it is, you can see it kind of better in the knitted fabric. It is black, but it's got, it's Brooklyn Tweed. It's got little flecks in it. And so it's just a really interesting fabric. I'm really excited to be knitting a basic. I really do think this is going to be a wardrobe staple. I think I said at the beginning of the year that one of my goals for 2023 was to knit more basics, which I've kind of done. I knit my Ingrid sweater several months ago, which is a fairly complex pattern, but I did do it in a neutral yarn. So I would consider that a basic, but this is like a true, just like plain black sweater. I think I'm gonna wear this all the time. I tend to wear black most of the time, with the exception of my hand knit sweaters, but if I have several black shirts and I always reach for them if they are clean. I'm wearing a black shirt right now. So to have a plain black sweater, I think I'm gonna get a lot of wear out of this one. So yes, and it's knitting up fairly quickly, much quicker than the Stria, which was what I was hoping for. So hopefully I will have some really good progress on this to share with you next week. And that is everything I have to show you this week. Like I said, I do plan to record again next weekend. My goals for this week in terms of my knitting is to keep working on my lakes. That is my singular knitting project at the moment. And then I also plan to block my Stria cardigan, and hopefully I can film some of that for you. I always love blocking videos because blocking is magical. If you are not blocking your things, you're really missing out. It completely changes your finished object. So yes, those are my big goals for the week. And yes, thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video or you like this kind of content, please remember to leave a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment, and I will chat with you all soon. Bye everyone.